I really appreciate his domestic policy. Foreign policy.
There you go. Well, most people don't like his foreign policy.
I don't like it.
Well, you have to understand. Look, it took me a while. You mind if I record you?
That's
Right?
fine.
You might be famous.
That's fine. He's for real. Yeah,
He doesn't look like he's fucking with me, no. Look, I voted for John McCain. I used to support this foreign policy of going around and making sure that the terrorists don't get us. And then I kind of realized that if you look at history and you look at what the United States has been doing around the world for decades now, you have to think of cause and effect. Yeah, they attacked us on September 11th. Yeah, there are terrorists who hate us. But we have been doing things in other countries for quite some time that logically pisses them off and creates generational revenge in people. If you kill people, in 1953, I don't know if you knew about this. 1953, our CIA took out a democratically elected leader and installed a dictator in that country. The people of that country elected a leader to represent them, and our CIA, with our money from the United States, I don't hate this country, but if we fuck up, we have to acknowledge that. We installed a dictator there. Look what we did to free people in a democratically elected society. We did that. And then about a decade later or so, the hostages were taken, the Iran hostage crisis. And the sentiments, the motivations for that was a direct result of us messing around and installing that dictator 10, 15 years before. We are not perfect. We have been meddling in other countries for quite some time. Ron Paul's not against defending this country. He's not against the military. In fact, he gets twice as many contributions from active duty military than all the other candidates combined.
Okay.
So the point is that he's not like this peace kumbaya hippie guy on war.
Right, and trust me, I want to vote. I want to vote for Ron Paul because I like a lot of his domestic policy. But what scares me is his extreme views on foreign policy.
Yeah, like Iran, for example.
What?
Like Iran, for example.
Sure.
Okay.
So, and again, if I could know that I was going to get Ron Paul's domestic policy, maybe temper a little bit. But granted, I mean, the foreign policy is just way over the edge.
Well, you have to.
So what? Like, with what you said, with what, our past history of meddling and tampering, and granted, here it's past, right? We've done that. But how do we move forward? That's the question.
Well, look, our foreign policy right now of bombing countries, Bush and Obama the same, bombing countries, killing women and children, pissing people off. We are creating generations of people who hate our guts. And if you look at some pretty amazing statistics, you would see that suicide terror, I think in Iraq, there wasn't a single suicide terror attack in Iraq until we went in there and started occupying that place. People, they utilize suicide terror because it's actually a really efficient way to kill off our empire going in. They don't have the same amount of firepower, the same amount of power that we do. So it's really effective to strap up.
Fantastic propaganda. Fantastic.
What do you mean?
Meaning, if they can show.
If they do it.
If they do
right.
it. For their case.
Right. You're right.
Because
it is a great effective. It shows that they're fearless.
But for me personally, if I let's say.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. So excuse me for a second. If they say that,
sorry, you can be in it if you want.
If they say that,
represent your team.
Do you think that it's okay to say, we'll separate ourselves totally from it? Thank you, Will. Like we'll totally say we want no part of it, and we're gonna let whatever happens happen. And granted, I don't necessarily want to be the world police, but I do think we have a moral obligation because of our position in the world to maybe do something about certain situations because we have the ability to do that. And I think it's. I don't think we have the right nor the obligation. We do have the obligation to do something. We don't have the ability not to do it.
Well, I see the motive. I see the logic behind that, and I understand that point. And Ron Paul, he's not utterly against war or helping other countries, but one thing he says is if you're going to go to war, get a declaration from Congress. Yeah. That's like a critical part of our Constitution. You can't just have the king say unleash the troops across over there. Because the Congress is supposed to represent a broader spectrum of the population in this country. You can't just have one king, one dictator.
Agreed.
So Ron Paul, he's not gonna never go to war. He's not gonna ever take part in foreign affairs. But if it's something that's that significant, at least the people will have a chance to vote for it and support it. You know?
I'd be a little scared that Ron Paul might hesitate if there was action needed, and we need if there was a time where we said, hey, we've really got to do something. Now's the moment. There's there's a window of opportunity. But hey, let's wait. Let's make sure we get congressional approval.
I mean, that's basically all he says. Just try to be a little more sober-minded about it, you know? Yeah.
On the other side of the coin, I mean, he is for, and also a lot of the other candidates are for it, but I think him more so for reducing foreign aid to all the other countries. Like, especially, you know, let's example, Egypt. Why are we supporting Egypt right now? They just had a revolution, but now they're going to come in with a dictator that supports Sharia law, and it's like, so, you know, I mean, we got to really reduce foreign aid.
So, and I'm not going to say I'm against reducing foreign aid. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I might be concerned about if we reduce foreign aid. Your point earlier about us always meddling in foreign politics. If we reduce foreign aid, there goes our goodwill. Like, a lot of our foreign aid is to build up goodwill. So if we reduce our foreign aid, we're reducing the goodwill we can build with other countries.
See, with Ron Paul, a lot of times he's such a philosophically consistent person that he just won't budge on certain things. And even though it seems nice to go help other people, what's the difference between welfare for people here at home and welfare for countries over there? Fundamentally, it's the same thing. You're taking money out of my pocket because somebody else somewhere else says, I need it. There's no difference between domestic welfare and foreign welfare, which is essentially what foreign aid is.
You're right, because it's all coming from the same pot.
Don't get me wrong. Like,
totally agree.
Foreign aid, I mean, I love it because, yeah, you're right, it's humanitarian, it's goodwill, but can we really tangibly afford it now? We're so
That's
much
another point. We are like $16 trillion in debt.
You know,
we got to get our house in order before we could ever help anybody else.
Totally agree, but can we say that we can afford not to do it?
So I'm going to interrupt. I haven't heard any of the conversation.
That's cool, bro.
If we don't play global police, who does?
No one.
What happens to the world then?
Strong national defense. Put our troops, bring them home, fucking secure this border like a fucking fortress, and instead of bombing other countries and wasting so much money, which mind you we don't have, we could have a non-interventionism. That's what it's called. We're gonna trade. We'll trade with other countries. We'll have economic prosperity. By the way, capitalism tends to improve relations because people are forced to work together because that's the way the capitalist system works, as opposed to bombing other countries.
So what happens with the Middle East when we completely, Afghanistan we're out, Iraq we're out, we don't meddle in Iran at all?
Yeah.
What happens why Iran continues to obviously meddle in figuring out how to Saudi Arabia, how to come up with how to become a nuclear power, whether it's for just truly nuclear power or whether it's for to be able to develop a nuclear weapon. Yeah. What do we do if we just sit here and say, you know what? Screw the Middle East. We're going to sit here and close our borders, get rid of, cut military funding by so much. Again, we were actually, it's funny you guys walked by. We were having a conversation earlier about how 8 out of 10 things Ron Paul says, I am like, man, this guy is the man.
That's usually how it is for people.
I was like, this guy is the real deal.
Though. Just recenter.
See, but
he just won't budge.
I will say this: it is so refreshing.
But it's not a problem. It's just that damn philosophically consistent.
That's for sure. That's one thing. Like, he's always consistent. He's always consistent.
With that attitude, of course he won't get elected, man. I mean,
like I said, I would like to vote for him, but he's got to be more centered. So that's why he's not going to get elected.
Here's another question: how can I vote for a 76-year-old man? We've never had a president that old.
Wisdom. I think we need a little wisdom, bro. Some experience.
I don't have any problem with his age. I don't have
Come on. He's going to be 81 years old when he ends his presidency.
So Obama was pretty young and lived this country. It's fucked up.
Trust me, no. You're not talking to a lot of Obama supporters here.
Reagan's my boy, man. Reaganism.
Reagan was 69 years old when he got elected. Now he was there for 2 terms. He finished his second term when he was 77 years old. Ron Paul's going to be
Ron Paul.
We have modern medicine.
Ron Paul's such a conservative. He left the Republican Party under the Reagan administration because he thought Reagan was not conservative enough. So you have to question: are you really that conservative, or have you just been raised under a supposed conservative? How consistent is your philosophy?
I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. Conservative, liberal, whatever you want to call it.
Those terms
I know
are
where
pretty
I stand
ambiguous,
within that spectrum. And I don't want to say I want to be the far conservative spectrum.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Whether Ron Paul wants to go that way, maybe if he goes further right, maybe I don't agree with him. A lot of his stuff I agree with. He just, certain things, he's just way off base.
Get rid of the Federal Reserve?
That's wait, you don't want to get rid of the Fed?